All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Project Self. It is so nice to be here with all y'all this morning, this beautiful Sunday morning, a little crisp in Houston. So to our friends on torchzoom.com, please, if you don't mind, muting your microphones so that we can remove background noise. Last week we were talking about the importance of feeling important in order for one to identify themselves and who they are. The deep character within the first virtue that is required is kol adam chayav ladat sheyesh lo chashivut. You are important. There's no one like you. Hold on one second. I don't think recorder's clicked on my recorder. Hold on one second. I apologize. Okay, so in order for a person to get to identify themselves, the first virtue that is required is to understand how important you are. How important you, each and every one of us, every single person in this world who wants to connect with their true selves, has to know, is required to know how important they are. Lo chashivut midumeh shehu machshiv atzmo be'atzmo. Not an imaginary concept of appreciation of the self, right? Like the Ramchal teaches us when he talks about ga'ava, when a person is arrogant, not to think highly of yourself in that sense that but to realize in depth, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more today than we did last week, to understand the importance of who we are and how unique we are. You know, the Talmud in Sanhedrin, we mentioned this again last week. We're just reviewing a little bit, and then we're going to continue forward. Kol echad ve'echad chayav lomar. The Talmud in Sanhedrin tells us every person must say constantly, Bishvili nivra olam. The world was created for me. What does Rashi explain? Klomar, meaning to say, Chashuv ani ka'olam maleh. I am important like the entire world. Lo etradet atzmi min ha'olam be'avira achat. And therefore, I won't remove myself from this world for one sin. Meaning, I understand that I'm precious, I'm important. If we realize, the commentaries tell us that when a person exits this world and enters the world to come, what happens? Who's there to greet that person? So it says that the parents, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, all of the ancestors are sort of there waiting and greeting. Oh, a new resident has arrived, and they're welcoming us into the world to come. But what happens if, God forbid, our deeds are tainted, if our actions are not pristine, if they're not refined? It can be embarrassing. It can be very embarrassing. Here they're excited that their descendant is coming up to the world of truth, and it's not exactly right. It's a fearful thought that perhaps will be coming into the world of truth, known as the world to come, and we're tainted with flaws of sins, so to speak, right? So we're important. We hold a great value, and we have to, with that understanding, take responsibility for the things that we do in our lives to ensure that we are fulfilling the greatness of who we are. If we really believe in ourselves and how much we are really worth as human beings, we would act in a way that's very dignified. We would talk in a way that's dignified. We would treat other people with respect. So what does it mean when Rashi says, Ke'olam maleh, like a full world, like a complete world? He says, Zoe chavayat chad pamit shel ha'adam. That is today we're living in a world of technology, where we have things which are called, they have stores dedicated to disposable, right? Disposable plasticware, disposable, party supplies, all of these napkins and plates and cups and everything is disposable. The problem is that we don't realize that human beings are not disposable, right? There's no other Ronnie in the world. There might be someone who carries that name, but there's no one with that character, with those dimensions of history, those dimensions of talent, with that, with the upbringing, with the virtues, with the values that Ronnie has. And every person is unique. Shelo haya od kmoto, there was never a person like you ever before. V'lo yeh kmoto, and there never will be one like you. Ad sof kol hadorot, till the end of existence. There will never be a Gary like Gary. Ever. There never will be. Yes, Ronnie, you're on mute. I can't hear.
Yeah. What would be the response to cloning, where you create an exact replica?
Okay, so I don't want to get into that too much. I'll just tell you briefly that while we could physically clone something, we can't spiritually clone something. Because the neshama, the physical body, is physical, but the spiritual soul, that's only from the Almighty. So, it's a question whether or not a human cloning is even possible. But yeah, can we clone an animal? It might look like an animal. The question is if it'll have that level of soul that is, given as a gift from the Almighty. So each one of us are given that soul, and we spoke about this numerous times, that Vayipach be'apav nishmat chaim, that the Almighty blew into the nostrils of man a living soul. What is that living soul? Those are the traits of God that are embedded within each and every one of us. Now, God has those traits in total, absolute perfection. We, on the other hand, have parts of that perfection, very, different quantities. They're called midot. Midot is measurements. We all have different measurements of those traits. And what the Torah teaches us is that our job throughout our lifetime is to emulate God. We're called Adam, man, to be Adameh, to be emulating God, to become godlike in perfection in all of our traits. So we have this training course, so to speak, that is the life that we live, the life that we're gifted with, where God gives each and every one of us the exact ingredients that we need to reach our perfection. So one person who's dealing with anger is going to be given the challenges that they need to overcome anger. And a person who's selfish will give the challenges that they need to overcome selfishness. And the person who is jealous will have the challenges throughout their lives that will help them perfect and remove those elements of jealousy. And each trait according to the individual. So, while we all think we're in the same world, it's all of us together, we're all in the same world, we're all the same. After all, it's not true, we're not all the same. Each and every one of us are unique, distinct, and different. There are no two people on planet Earth who are the same. And while we look the same, we may all desire our, morning cup of Joe, but that does not mean that we're the same. We're not made out of the same thing. And we have to remember that, because we'll see in a minute that our challenges are unique. And because our challenges are unique, it's not the same. You can't use the same ingredients for different recipes, right? Each recipe is unique. It's different. You can't say, well, just throw in some more sugar. It's fine, right? It's not gonna taste the way it should. It says, "V'lo yeh kmoto ad sof kol hadorot," and there will never ever be another one like you, Linda, right? Never. There'll never be. And it's something, if our children, we're dealing in a culture, in a society where children are dealing with depression. Adults are also dealing with depression. If they understood these two lines that we just read, that they are unique, that they are special, that there's no one like them, they are one of a kind, and they're repeated that by the ones who love them, by their parents, by their friends, by their teachers, no one would go into depression. The problem is that we convince ourselves that we're just like everyone else. You're not just like everyone else. You are unique. You are special. You have unbelievable traits. You have unbelievable character. You're one of a kind. Ani im hamizug hamiyuchad shel kochotai, with my unique composition of traits, ben leotam avot, a son to a specific set of parents, nolad betoch ota tkufa, born in a specific generation, ubaota sviva, and in a specific environment. Bevadai avodam yuchedet mutalat alai. There is no question that there is a specific task that I am required to fulfill in my lifetime that is unique to me. Chelek miyuchad li b'Torah. There's a special piece of Torah that is there for me. V'kol habriya mechaka li she'etaken et hamutal alai. And the whole world, the entire creation, is waiting for me to fulfill my job, so that I should perfect my character. Ki et avodati lo uchal lahachlif im shum adam acher ba'olam. Because my job cannot be replaced by anybody else. You're the only one who can do it. You think of the great leaders, the spiritual leaders, the Torah leaders of the previous generations. You think of the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim was one of a kind. There was no one like the Chafetz Chaim. Someone who brought such awareness to the world about the purity of speech. We just had in this week's parsha about Mitzorah, right? Tazrian Mitzorah. We read about the punishments that one would be afflicted with if they spoke negatively about someone else. They spoke slanderously about others, putting other people down. It's an amazing thing. How careful we need to be, how cautious we need to be about speaking negatively about other people. And what does the Chafetz Chaim bring to our attention? He brings all the laws about Lashon Hara, right? Lashon Hara. He brings us all of the inspiration about pure speech, about keeping our mouths clean, about speaking properly about other people. Nobody else can do that. No other rabbi could do that. That was his special uniqueness. God brought him into this world so that he can awaken the world to this special sensitivity. It's in the Torah. Everybody has access to it. But this was his special piece of Torah. And if you go through all of the different sages over the generations, each one had their own unique contribution of Torah that was unique to them. The Torah belongs to all of us. Any of us can delve into any of these mitzvahs. But they made it their own. And that's what our sages here are telling us, is that we each and every one of us, we have our own uniqueness. We have our own ability to bring specialty to the world, to bring something unique to the world that only we can do. Because each one of us are a combination of unique traits, of unique character, of unique talents. And nobody else has that same composition of traits and talents. Right? Is this clear? Yeah? Okay, great. Zoe Chashivut. This is important. You want to know what important is? When someone realizes that they're unique. That's someone who's important. Right? Bli toda'at chashivut en avodah b'Torah. Without this recognition of your importance, there's nothing to do in Torah. It's a prerequisite to success in Torah. In the introduction, when the Jewish people are about to gather around the foot of Mount Sinai, what does it say? V'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. Right? God says, you will be for me a mamlechet kohanim. a kingdom of priests. Who's that referring to? It's referring to every single Jew. Every single one of us are going to be a kingdom, a member of that kingdom of priests. Our sage says, what does it mean, priests? Sarim. You know what a sar is? A sar is a minister. In the Israeli government, you have, I think, 14, and maybe now they've upped it maybe, but 14 sarims, ministers, and they hold a portfolio. They hold the portfolio of health and the portfolio of tourism and portfolio of medicine, of health, right? And it's like you have in every government, you have department heads for each of the important. What are we? We're sarim. Each one of us are a sar. We're a minister. Kama the at amar ubnei David kohanim hayu. Kol echad mi Yisrael sar. Each one of the Jewish people, every single one of us, are a minister. We have great powers and great responsibilities for our uniqueness. Bal ma'ala v'bal achrayut kimo sar b'medina. Just like a minister of a portfolio in a government has responsibilities, has obligations to their portfolio that they hold, right? They are unique. They have responsibilities that are unique to their job. So too, each and every Jew is considered like a minister of a portfolio in a government, and we have a specific task and a specific responsibility that the entire Jewish people are relying on. So there's a contribution that Gary has to bring to the table here that nobody else on planet Earth can bring, because Gary's unique. And the entire Jewish people are going to benefit from Gary bringing out his light to the world. It's an enormous responsibility, right? That's a feeling, a sense of importance. I have an obligation. I've got to do this. I will also tell you, by the way, that there is a special divine assistance when someone undertakes that responsibility. For example, this morning at the morning services in synagogue, I saw a book sitting around, a Torah book, and I opened it up, and who is it? It's from a young rabbi who's a little bit younger than me, actually, that I know from Jerusalem. And this young rabbi authored a magnificent book, like this thick, right, on ideas on one of the tractates of the Talmud. This is his own ideas, his own thoughts, his own, what we call chidushim, his new insights into the Talmud. He's a young man. But who knows if the entire world was waiting for his ideas of Torah to be brought to light. Because he has unique elements that nobody else has. By the way, each one of us here have our own uniqueness that we can contribute to this world. So if you start journaling, you start learning, write it down, teach it to your friends, right? Share what you know, because you can be bringing something very, very special to this world that only you can do. I'll tell you, there's an individual, we mentioned the Chafetz Chaim, there's an organization called the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. The Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation was started not by a rabbi, by an individual who was very passionate about clean speech. And if I tell you that the merit of this individual, again, not a rabbi, not someone who was educated in a smicha program, who became a rabbi, no, just a concerned Jew who said, we need to wake ourselves up about the importance of clean speech. And he started this foundation. And they produced hundreds and hundreds of recordings of audio classes, video presentations, and every year in synagogues around the globe, on Tisha B'Av, on the day of mourning, the day of commemorating the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, in the synagogues, when people are sitting on the floor and mourning that destruction, they're watching a video from the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. Who was it started by? By one person who said, this is important. We've got to do something about this. You think of the Daf Yomi. There are tens of thousands of people, right, Gary? There are tens of thousands of people today learning the daily folio of Talmud across the globe. And wherever you go, I was once stuck on a flight. I was stuck on I was traveling and I got stuck in Frankfurt. And I was set up with one of the synagogues in Frankfurt, and they said, "Oh, our rabbi is out of town. I was then 19 or 20 years old. They said, "Oh, we have a rabbi here. Why don't you teach us the daily folio of Talmud?" And I taught them the day's daf that they learn in every other city in the world. The same exact daf, the same exact folio, the same exact page of Talmud that is studied across the globe. It's an amazing thing. You know who started it? Rabbi Meir Shapiro. Rabbi Meir Shapiro came up with this idea, and everyone could think, well, anybody can come up with that idea. Yes, but he did it. And today, in his merit, you have tens of thousands of people learning the daily folio of Talmud in the merit of a young rabbi, from Lublin, who thought up an idea that people should study the Daf Yomi. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing. When we think of what is our purpose in this world, these are the thoughts that should come to us, that we have something special to contribute to the world. And we need to do the best we can to maximize that. Not to feel, don't feel depleted and don't feel, look at these great accomplishments, right? What did I do? Right? No. Think I'm different. I grew up with my background, with my family history, with my, set of skills, my tools. I have to produce what I can. And each one of us are unique in that way. What does it say after the Jewish people received the Torah at Mount Sinai? Vayomer Moshe la'am, and Moshe said to the nation, Al tir'u, don't be afraid. Ki leba'avu nasot etchem ba ha'elokim. Don't be afraid because God, all of these, the sights, the visions, the revelation that was at Mount Sinai was so awesome and so great. And the Jewish people were terrified. Moshe says, don't be afraid. Leman nasot. Don't worry, God did it to elevate you. Sometimes we can be afraid, we can be concerned, right? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, "Legadel uluromem eschem ba'olam," right? To elevate you in this world, to make you great in this world. Lenasot, what does it mean, lenasot? To try you, to challenge you. Lashon harama vigdula kemo harimu nes. Arim nisi v'kenes al giva shehu zakuf. He says, God, the same word for trial, challenge, is the same word for elevation. What is Rashi telling us here? Rashi telling us such an amazing thing. He says, every challenge that you have is a gift to help you grow. When you face a challenge, know this is God giving you an opportunity to grow. You get frustrated at the customer service on the telephone, right? It's a challenge. Guess what? Hashem is giving you an opportunity to grow. You get frustrated at the person driving in front of you is not driving fast enough. It's an opportunity for you to grow. Every challenge that you face is an opportunity for growth. Ba'avur zeh baha elokim. Therefore, the Torah continues. It says, and for this, God has come. Natan nevuah lekol echad Yisrael. He gave prophecy to every one of the Jewish people. Imagine every Jew standing at the foot of Mount Sinai experienced prophecy. Legadlam uluromim osam. To elevate them and to make them great. Harei matan Torah tchiloso v'sofo romamus kol yochid misrael. Ki mitoch katnus lo masigim kavanas haTorah. God elevated each and every one of the Jewish people in order for them to receive the Torah. We cannot be downtrodden and have Torah. We have to feel how great we are. We have to know how great we are. We have to feel that elevation. And only through that can we grow. In Torah, can we grow as a human being? Can we grow in our character? So what needs to happen is that every single person needs to sit on the side for a minute and start jotting down the things that we're great for, that we are great in. What were we gifted in? Our family background, our siblings, our accomplishments. Think of how awesome and how great each and every one of us are. That's what we need to do. It's very easy for us to just say, you know what? Oh, I'm not that great. I haven't really accomplished anything. What am I good for? I'm a good for nothing, right? And just push ourselves down. And our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, so to speak, wants us to feel that way. He wants us to feel that we're a nothing, because that way we don't have to accomplish. We don't have to do anything. And that's not if we want to grow, if we want to elevate ourselves, you know what we need to do? We need to know how great we are. We need to reinforce it within ourselves, within our consciousness every single day. I am great. You know, there's a story I've said in the past, that there was a young boy in Jerusalem in yeshiva, in a elementary school, who went from class to class to class to class, and every one of the teachers in each of those classes said, "I cannot handle this student. He's a problem student. I am not dealing with him. I don't want to handle him." So finally, he was in the last. Each grade has multiple classes. He was in the last of the classes, and the teacher just says, "Go to the principal's office. I cannot handle you in my class. Troublemaker. I can't deal with this. I have other students I need to teach. I can't handle this." So finally, this principal has no more options, and he tells the student like this. He says, "Tell me something that you're good at." The student says, "Nothing. I'm good at making trouble. That's it. Not really good at anything." He says, no, I want you to think for a minute, something that you are special at, something that you're really, really good at. And the student can't find anything. He says, "Come on, in the schoolyard, there's nothing that you're good at?" He says, "Oh," he says, "I can climb the tree faster than anybody else in my class." "Oh, let's write that down." So he writes that down, and the principal patiently tells the student he works with him to list off about 10 things that he was special at. And then the principal tells him, "That's fantastic." And they have the whole list. They're all written down. He says, "I want you to go home, and tomorrow morning, when you wake up, I want you to stand in front of a mirror and read this paper to yourself in front of the mirror of all the incredible things that you have on this list, all of the special talents and the special abilities that you have that are unique to you." And sure enough, they never had issues with that student again. In order for us to bring out the greatness that we have, we need to recognize how good we are. We don't have to be good like the neighbor. We don't have to be good like our siblings. Many times siblings have, this rivalry. You're different. You're unique. I don't think anybody is shocked to hear that my dear brother, Rabbi Wolbe, is brilliant. Everybody knows that. If you listen to his podcasts, you listen to his classes, you'll hear that he's unique. He's special. I'm 9 years older than him. Excuse me, right? It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change the reality that he is very, very talented, very, very gifted. And he has his place in Torah. And I have my place in Torah. And it's different. It's unique. They don't have to be the same. And mine doesn't have to be greater or less than his. It's different. And it's all right for it to be different. And we have to be comfortable with that reality. There is this reality that every person is different. We don't have to be the same. We weren't given the same set of skills. We weren't given the same set of talents. That's the reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. I highly recommend everyone listen to his podcast because they're absolutely amazing. And last month, the month of March, his podcasts collectively all had over 50,000 downloads. There's a reason for it. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm honored and privileged that he's part of our team here at Torch, producing such incredible Torah content for the world. We've become a local organization that has gone global, right, because of these videos and podcasts. But every person needs to realize how great they are and how unique they are. And everyone has something that they bring to the table that nobody else can bring. A unique composition of talents, a unique composition of character that no one else has. And that's your specialty. And every person needs to know it. And once we know it, we can start elevating ourselves in our traits, in our character, in our work in Torah. So, to our friends online, I want to thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, you're welcome to post your questions in the comments area or email me at awolbe@torchweb.org. Have a terrific week, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are on Torch